Somebody else there, I see.
No, it seems like the audio is coming through. You are indeed.
There's two. Okay, so everybody's present. Okay.
Okay, live stream's up and everything's ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. It being 6:30, I'll call the Dunn County Facilities meeting to order. Roll call shows that all board members are here, along with other guests. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from December 2nd and December 7th. You were all mailed copies of that. What are your wishes?
I'll move to approve.
Both meetings or just one?
Yes, both meetings, yeah.
Okay, a motion's been made to approve the minutes of the December 2nd and December 7th meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second both of them.
Okay, a second's been made. Any discussion? No corrections? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Okay, the minutes stand as approved. Okay, public comment.
We have one individual in the waiting room. I'm going to admit her right now.
Okay.
Okay. Karen, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Okay, I am.
You are unmuted.
Okay, is it my turn to speak?
Yes, it is.
Okay, my name is Karen Schreiber, and do I have to give my address?
If you would, please.
Okay, I live at N9021 590th Street, Colfax, Wisconsin. And I've lived on this tree farm for 50 years now. So it's a good place to live here in Dunn County. And I want to thank you to start out with for giving us this opportunity to make comment. And I think it's great that you are considering this resolution, because it's really about being concerned about future generations and not just us too, because climate change is seriously impacting all of us. And so I wrote down some things so that I'll try to be really concise and straightforward. The latest statistics I could find said that there's 170 cities across the country and 10 counties, but I think there must be more than 10 counties that have adopted these resolutions. And I know the city of Menominee and the city of Eau Claire, and I know Kate Beaton is going to speak, and she can tell you more about Eau Claire too, what they've done, but have adopted these resolutions, the city of Menominee, this past year. So there are 100 million people that live in a community with an official 100% renewable electricity target. I know we're going for 2050, is that correct? For your resolution. And the strongest commitments established this clean energy vision alongside a plan for achieving it. Communities forging their own paths to reach 100% are setting examples for others to follow, whether they're pushing utilities to switch to clean energy, powering county-owned buildings with renewables, or prioritizing energy efficiency to reduce energy waste with community workshops, weatherization for low-income homes. And along with this, it's more successful if people also make a transparent and inclusive planning and implementation process to ensure that the community members and local businesses have an opportunity to participate. And there's so many resources out there now with our internet and everything. There's, I'm active in the Sierra Club. They have all kinds of resources you can go to Kate Beaton is League of Wisconsin Conservation Voters. One of my personal favorites is Rocky Mountain Institute. It's Amory Lovins, who is world famous and has testified in front of governments all over the world. He knows a lot about energy efficiency and just tons of information out there. So it's and I would be excited if you had a citizen committee or something, or wanted to reach out to the community. I'd volunteer to help with that too. So thank you again for this opportunity. I'm really excited about what you're doing.
Okay, thank you. Is there another one, Krista?
We did have one more individual, but they have not shown up in the waiting room. So if John would like to read the public comment.
I can do that. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
And Marge, just for the record, I emailed this so you can get it in the minutes without having to try to keep up with me. So I'll read the letter that was sent to myself, Scott Nobefeld, and County Manager Paul Miller. It says, my name is Sue Shooting, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Sue. I live at N5723 970th Street in the town of Elk Mound in Dunn County. I thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the resolution for Dunn County to reach the 100% clean energy goal by 2050. There are many reasons to move forward on this goal now, to begin with a smaller set of interim goals towards a larger goal of carbon-free economy in our county. The cost of our county in the longer term, if we do nothing, are great. Spending money in the near future for mitigation or prevention of increased warming of the climate from burning fossil fuels will save money and prevent damage to our land and to our health. First, the bad news. A warming climate has already affecting our winters with lower snowpack, which is harmful to hay crops. Increased rainfalls with heavy downpours in the spring and summer can damage crops and tax city stormwater systems. There is damage of property from flooding and increased risk of contamination from chemical runoff. Human health is at higher risk during summer temperatures, which bring more ticks and more mosquitoes, vector-borne diseases, and allergies. In fact, the Midwestern United States has had the second biggest increase in heavy downpours next to the Northeast. Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Madison, Wisconsin are among the top 50 cities in the country receiving the heaviest rains. Along with agriculture, our county will see more damage to outdoor recreation and tourism in the area, with impacts to skiing, hiking, fishing, and hunting. If you think that the public opinion will not buy into this concern, it is not so. The Yale program on climate change communication shows that both residents of Dunn County and of Wisconsin as a whole, 55% are worried about the warming climate. Now to speak of the positives for acting to a set of goals for our county. For your information, the following municipalities have set goals for 100% clean energy by the year 2050. The state of Wisconsin, the city of Menominee, the city of Eau Claire County, La Crosse, and the city of Madison. There are jobs for people in the solar installation business. There are jobs for retrofitting homes, for electricians, and in public transportation. School solar projects can add new dimensions to science and engineering education and promote leadership. Renew Wisconsin has had some great videos about school solar projects. Cleaner water in our county is better for tourism. Healthier soil that results from more sustainable farming practices uses less fertilizer, which puts more money in the pocket of farmers. A cleaner environment means healthier people and less strain on our public health department. Finally, in a study of UW-Madison's Center on Wisconsin Strategy, or COWS, for short-term researchers found that Wisconsin could generate jobs and improve public health by transitioning it into an energy system away from fossil fuels. They found that a model of in a mix of in-state alternative energy sources, utility scale solar and geothermal, offshore and onshore wind energy, biomass and nuclear, and the benefits of improving energy efficiency in buildings, transportation, Wisconsin could generate 100% of its energy, saving $14.4 billion sent out of the state for energy. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts. Sue Shooting, Elk Mound.
Okay.
Okay, Chuck, we have the individual in the waiting room, and I'm going to admit her.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Hi, Jan, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Hello, thank you.
You're welcome. It's your turn to speak.
Oh, thank you. I am just attending the meeting this evening to speak in support of the County Board Facilities Committee seriously taking up the question of clean energy. I live in Menominee. I think this is a great step for the board to explore, to look at the options and see how we can move toward a cleaner energy future for our county. My husband and I have invested in 40 kilowatts of solar power on our own property and really want to be in support of that happening throughout our area to whatever extent we can. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Could you give me your address, please, for the record?
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to do that. My name is Jan Morlock. My husband is David Hamesbergen. We're at 2714 Cherry Blossom Lane in Menominee.
Okay, thank you.
And that is all we have for public comment.
Okay, very good. We'll move on to item number 5 here then. Items placed at the request of the chair. And with the committee's permission, I would like to jump down to number C, which is the resolutions to be carbon free by the year 2050. And just so everybody that's on the call understands, I put this in here because Don had gathered up a bunch of resolutions from counties, towns for everybody to study and review. And so not that we have a specific resolution to vote on this evening, it's to start the discussion as to, first off, do we want to have it? Second off, if we do, what sort of action plan will there be? And then we'd have to develop matrix to measure that plan. And so at this time, I'd like to have Kate speak as far as what they have done in Eau Claire. So Kate, if you'd please speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everyone for having me. I am Kate Beaton. My address is 603 Summit Avenue in Eau Claire. And I serve in the Eau Claire City Council and I'm also the Western organizer for Wisconsin Conservation Voters. In the last 2 years, I've been working with 9 cities to my count, 9 communities, so cities, counties, and school boards, all to create a vision on the local level to achieve a transition to clean energy. I think our speakers talked a lot about the environmental benefits of that, the benefits to our health and our air and our clean water. But there's also a lot of really great financial benefits to it too. I know as a local elected official myself, I know you're probably thinking like, yeah, that'd be great, but like we can't afford it. And I relate to that. But a lot of folks don't know that actually clean energy is currently cheaper than fossil fuels. There's a better return on investment in clean energy. And I think that switch was made like in 2017 or 2018, and it's projected to stay that way. And so though certainly there would be an upfront cost to clean energy projects. It's an excellent financial investment for the county long term. There's also a lot of job growth in clean jobs. It actually outpaces the job growth generally in our country and in our state. And for farmers and in agriculture, farmers can stand to make like 2 to 3 to even 4 times more using, to produce clean energy on their land, which often can go along with crop yield. And so it can be a really great financial boost for our farmers who are having such a hard time making it right now. And anyway, so in Eau Claire, the city, we had worked on passing a resolution to commit to 100% clean energy by 2050, which was passed in 2018. We were the second community in Wisconsin to do that, and that led to a whole bunch of other communities doing it as well. And I'll focus on counties right now because we're talking with the county board here. The Eau Claire County followed suit and passed their goal in 2019. And then the County of La Crosse passed a goal in this last summer in 2020. Dane County has also passed a goal, and Brown County is actually very close to passing a goal of their own too. And so we have sort of enough communities and enough counties where we can see that passing a goal and essentially setting a vision of where we want to be in 30 years really creates a lot more context, both for citizens and the county board, but also for our municipal staff to really think about, like, this is a big goal, and how are we going to achieve it? And actually, I've seen specifically in the county and city in Eau Claire that it really allows us to create a plan that achieves these goals more financially efficiently. So we can do things in an order that sort of build on each other. We can do things in a long range plan when it might be more cost efficient to do it, that sort of thing. And so that's sort of why I believe in the importance of setting this vision. And after a community will pass this goal in the communities that I've worked for, we also encourage them to look at going through an intentional planning process. And that can look different for, many different communities. And actually, I think that that's a really beautiful part of local governments leading on our transition to clean energy, because you can really tailor that planning process to your local community. So the stakeholders in your specific community, whether it be, farmers or lake advocates or the chamber or, car salespeople, like whoever your stakeholders are, they can come to the table and really define what the issues are and define the solutions to create a plan to move forward with that goal. That's sort of what we did in Eau Claire and what we recommend for other communities. We also do recommend a standing committee that's sort of sanctioned by the county board that advises the county board on throughout this 30-year process. So yeah, I think I think Don has already sent you the resolutions for Eau Claire County and La Crosse County. And as just an update as to where they're at in their process now. So I actually just learned recently that Eau Claire County is in the process of hiring a new sustainability coordinator that will live in their planning department. Certainly a position that would not have been prioritized by the county board if it hadn't been for this vision setting, right? They also are, they're doing an inventory of the county's energy usage so that they really know like where they're at now and how far that they have to go. So you don't really know how to reach your goal if you don't know where you're at now. And I think that they all are also looking at creating a committee. So that's kind of like all in the works. It's been moving kind of slowly, but that's okay. They're certainly moving forward with their goal. And then the county board in La Crosse has, like I said, just passed their goal in 2020, but they're already starting to think about what their next step is. And so it sounds like they're going to be moving first on creating a sustainability committee and handling their planning after that, once their committee is established. So I know that there might be a lot of questions about maybe the mechanics of this or funding mechanisms or anything else. So I guess I'll just stop there and see if there are any questions.
Okay, yeah, I do have a couple of questions. So when you're saying that you have a committee that was already formed, was that just an ad hoc committee, informational committee? It doesn't really have any quote power per se. It just provides. And how many members are on that committee, and how did you determine how many should be and the criteria for the members?
Yeah, so the committee, the standing sustainability committees are basically like the county board saying, citizens and maybe, you know, members of the county board, we want you to come together and give us advice. And so there's no decision-making power on the committee, but they advise the county board on smart solutions. And so often those committees are made up of folks from the university. I know that UW Stout has been really has really led a lot of really great sustainability efforts in Dunn County. So there's lots of resources there. It might be, somebody from the utility may often sit on the committee. So from Excel or from, I forget the name of the rural co-op that is in Dunn County, but maybe somebody from there, somebody from, a solar company that might be in the county. So just like experts in the field to advise on solutions and policy. And to reach, be a conduit between the county board and the community to sort of communicate these messages too. I don't know exactly how we came up with a number. I think that, there's sort of best practices in terms of like, folks like not committees that are not too big and not too small. So
Right.
I think that our committee, our permanent committee has maybe roughly 12 people. But we had a second committee in that was temporary, that was tasked with creating our plan. It only met 5 times. And that committee actually had like 60 community stakeholders. It was the process was led by Excel in their Partners in Energy program, which is the same program that the city of Menominee is going through right now. And they did a really good job of like wrangling a large group of people and like finding some really meaningful ideas out of a larger group. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions of Kate at
Well,
this time?
Chuck?
Yeah, go ahead,
Chuck?
Don. Yeah, and then
I
we'll
could
get to you,
comment
Tim.
on, I'm on the committee that was formed for Menominee City. And I think, I forget the number, I should have brought that along, but there were about 15 or so. They represented the city, the university, ordinary citizens, people from some of the industries. And we met 3 times, or twice we met for about 3 hours. And then the facilitator, now they're going to write up a report, and we haven't seen that yet, but that's how that worked. And this, I assume this is a temporary committee. And then what the city will do after that, I'm not real sure. But I think they will end up with some sort of standing committee that will advise them. If that helps any.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Tim, you had a question?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Questions I have are more on the logistics side, because as far as I know, most of the facilities that we have in Dunn County are energy consumers, not energy generators. So I guess the question I have is are we now encouraging people to install clean energy alternatives, like putting solar panels on their house or putting up wind turbines, or and the second part of that is and the question has, you weren't sure what the energy co-op was here in Dunn County. Well, it's Dunn Energy Co-op, DEC. So we have Dunn Energy, and we have most of our use of electricity now are Dunn Electric or XL Energy. And I know that XL Energy has, and I've seen commercials on TV that they want a clean initiative by 2050 also. So how does this differ from what XL Energy's initiative is going after? So those are my two questions. I'll just kind of listen for a response if anybody has a response.
Okay, it would be the same end goal as far as getting to be carbon free. It is my understanding that the initiative here would be for the county as far as what the county's consumption is, and to take a lead role in, not that we're saying that you as a private citizen has to do this, this, or this, but it would be leading the way through the county, through our buildings, and that sort of thing. And one of the ways that, as it happens out, the fact that in the transit committee, transit is going to be getting an electric bus. So we've already started down that path somewhat. So we have gathered the numbers on the electrical usage as far as the county buildings. So we have started some of this process, but it would be more just the county run facility buildings and operation at this time, as far as where our target would be is my understanding. And here again, that's why I wanted to have it on for discussion, because it's what you, as the facilities committee, how you feel too. I mean, if you think that I'm, crazy and nuts, then that's fine. I mean, that's why I wanted to have it a start of a discussion as to how do you think we fit in, and where do we want to go from here? Yes, Kate.
I can add a little bit more to that too. In terms of the county operations, so I think a big part of the goal would be to drive the county to be powered entirely by clean energy. So it's the county facilities, it's the automobiles, that like everything that sort of encompasses that. And a couple of examples of how the city of Eau Claire has started to do that, which is a little bit farther along than the county of Eau Claire. So that's why I'm using that as an example. We actually entered into a partnership agreement with XL Energy. We lended land that sits on a old retired landfill that can't be developed. And we gave the land, and then XL Energy built a solar garden. And then in exchange for giving the land, we get solar energy. So that's kind of one of the things that we've done. We're undergoing reconstruction of our library, and we are planning to invest in a geothermal system. So that's sort of another thing that we've done. A lot of what we're talking about is energy efficiency as much as it is clean energy. So all of our plans assume that in order to reach this goal, we have to cut our energy usage in half, which doesn't necessarily mean that like our lives have to be different. It just means making sure everything is properly insulated, light bulbs that are low energy. Probably the way things are progressing in the sort of clean energy technology world, there's probably lots more energy efficiency technology that is going to be upcoming as well. So that's sort of what we're talking about, the county operations. The goal, I think every other goal that I've worked with includes setting a goal for all of the municipalities, so all of the county, which includes the private citizens too. But it definitely does not mean like forcing anybody to build solar panels or like, shaming anybody into doing that. It really means really like first leading as a county and saying like, we're doing this and we hope you join us, but also doing things in our policy and in the way that we invest in new resources to make it easier for private citizens to make this change. So, it's things like creating maybe it's like strengthening a rural bus system, so making it easier for people to like get around without their car. Maybe it's resources to help people like invest in their own homes. So like maybe it's a revolving loan fund or something. Maybe it's investing in electric vehicle charging stations or something like that. And like a lot of those ideas, especially for the private side of things, would hopefully come from the community, where they see their needs and offering their solutions too. So that's kind of that side of things. And then I want to make sure that we all understand too that the Excel goals are only for electricity. So I think while it's really helpful to have a partner in Excel to help us, I think we have a huge advantage here in Western Wisconsin with a utility that's like literally the #1 utility in clean energy that's already set this goal. If we did nothing, we would still have a whole lot of natural gas and fuel that would still be burning and contributing to environmental issues, and would contribute to issues with like where we get our oil from and like those sort of foreign relations too. So there's kind of that argument as well.
Chuck?
Yeah, Don.
Maybe I could add a little bit to this. To me, it kind of seems like the county could set a good example. In other words, keep this in front of people and keep it in front of us too. For instance, I'm hopeful that the Sheriff's Department will start buying hybrid patrol cars. And that would show people in the county that, hey, maybe this is something I can do too. In fact, now Ford is coming out with a 150 hybrid pickup. And so it looks to me like some of this stuff is merely setting an example, being leaders. As we're elected leaders, we need to lead. And this would help Excel also, because they probably are going to have a difficult time if a lot of their customers don't start buying more renewable energy. For instance, they have a program for individuals, I'm on it, where you actually buy renewable energy, and in my cost, I figured it up today, it's about $2.50 a month more. And I'm using all renewable energy in our house. It's things like that I think would be real helpful instead of doing nothing. And we've already got a good start. We have geothermal in 2 of our building complexes. They're all pretty efficient. We got a lot of LEDs. So we've done a lot already, but we can always do more.
Okay. Yeah, Dave.
The county plans that you've talked about, how far do they go? I imagine they talk about buying electric vehicles and making the buildings more efficient, LED lights and all of the stuff that we have talked about already. But like Tim mentioned, when you get to generation, and you mentioned that also, are they going so far that they're going into their zoning and creating places in zoning that are acceptable to energy generation, either solar or wind? Because I guess just hearing from the news, and I watched it quite closely in St. Croix County when it was just across our border, because it's close to where I live. But when you come to wind generation, nobody seems to want it. And I also have heard people that don't want a big solar farm close to them. So how far do these plans go, the 2 plans, the county plans, or any of the county plans in the state? Do they go so far that they have created a place in zoning that is acceptable?
Yeah, Kate, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Eau Claire and the La Crosse plans are not finished yet. And so the best example I have for you is the City of Eau Claire plan. From the moment that we set our goal to the moment we finished our plan, it was about 3 years. So this process takes a long time. It just takes a lot of thinking and a lot of intentional public engagement. And so I don't have a specific plan for you, but I think, like I said, I think the great thing about a local initiative like this is that the county board can decide, like, we want to create a special zoning code for this, or we don't want to, create a special zoning code for this. I think in terms of electricity generation, the smartest thing that a county can do is leverage their public-private partnerships, especially with a utility that is so agreeable to this. It's truly up to you. It's setting the vision and then figuring out how you want to achieve it. So I also will say too that when it comes to placing solar and wind farms, there's nothing that's going to be in any plan that's going to force anything to happen. Creating a wind farm or creating a solar farm would be subject to the same type of public input process that any other solar or wind farm would be subject to. And so you'd have the tools to be able to collect that feedback from citizens who may or may not want those generation sites near them.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, Mike, do you have a question or comment?
I do have a couple of comments. I guess first off, I'd like to compliment you, Kate, on the approach that covers more than simply saying we're going to eliminate the carbon footprint, because there's more to it than just that perspective. There's the perspective that it's really cost effective. There's great value in renewable energy. It reduces our dependency on foreign oil. So there's so much more to renewable energy than merely the environmental issue. So it does cover a broad spectrum, and I come at it more from the other side of the issue of the economics issue of renewable energy. So I do support all of the renewable energies when they can be done with a good way to be done. I don't support blindly going forward simply to say that we're going to have renewable energy, and you see pictures of the cars plugged into a charging station run by a bunch of diesel generators 200 yards in the back. So if we're going to do it, let's do it right, and let's incorporate everybody so we get all people on board, not just the 55% that the lady was talking about in her comment earlier. We should get 90% of people on board, because there's no reason not to support the idea of renewable energy. I can't think of anybody that uses good common sense that says it's bad. I can think of many arguments that says the way we're doing it is not right. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Don.
In response to Dave's question about zoning and locating wind turbines and things, I think it must be just something, it must be education over the long time, because I lived in Iowa in the 80s and 90s, and I was on a group there that was trying to convince the legislature to pass a law that would force the power companies to at least generate half their, 10% of their power from renewable sources. And they fought that tooth and nail. And yet now they're generating 20% of their power from, at least 20% from renewable sources. So I think there was an educational thing there. And of course, the farmers are really making out better than planting crops, and they can still plant their crops around it. But if you drive through northern Iowa and southern Minnesota, you'll see wind turbines all over, and they seem to be accepted, and the farmers are doing real well with them. So I think it's something that there has to be some education along the way. And I realize in St. Croix they were fighting it, but so I don't know. I don't have the real answer, but I know what's happening. Even in Texas, for instance, which is an oil state, I think they're one of the highest producers of renewable energy from wind. So.
Yeah, Bob, do you have a comment?
Yeah, can you hear me? Sometimes my
Yes.
microphone goes out.
Yep.
I just wanted to let everyone know that back in 2015, we amended our zoning ordinance and we defined renewable energy, small, medium, large, and and those definitions are tied to both the footprint, that the field would take up, and also by its output, how much output could be generated from small, medium, and large. We worked with Excel Energy on that so that we could understand, output and just to figure out just what is small, medium, large. As small is like for a home, medium would be like for commercial application, and large would be for maybe even up to industrial applications. So we started that back in already in 2015. Trying to understand and get ready for renewable energy. So our, at least part of our zoning ordinance already recognizes renewable energy.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yeah, Ron, go ahead.
Like that 5-star dairy, they have that methane burning to make power. Is that considered clean energy?
I think that would not be, I think it's considered to be like medium, like better than coal in terms of the environmental impact, but ultimately maybe would be something that we would like address last, but eventually it does create fossil fuels, and is something that, ideally if you're reaching 100% clean energy generation, it would have to be something that would have to change. But there's 30 years to work on that, and hopefully, almost certainly, there would be new technology that would be accessible to farmers and other folks to make it work. So.
Okay, Kate, I got a question piggybacking off what Ron said, because isn't burning the methane a better alternative than just the methane itself going into the atmosphere? Because obviously we're not going to get rid of the cows. So there's going to be that, when you bring up the agricultural aspect of things, the cattle are going to be here. And so isn't, unless they come up with a totally different way of neutralizing the methane per se, but it's my understanding that burning it is better for the atmosphere than just the methane itself in its pure form.
That could be true. And I don't have a ton of experience on methane. So I think that those would be that would be a great sort of first question for a committee to create a plan that is largely made up of, local farmers and folks who have a little bit more experience with methane. So.
Okay. Any other questions at this time? So we can utilize the resources here. Yeah, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
So with your setup in Eau Claire, is there means to force the carbon-free renewable resources by 2050, or what's the reason for the 2050 date, and what does it mean?
Yeah, so to address the first question, which I think is really important, there's no means to force anything to happen. And I approach this goal as like I said, setting a vision to help us be smarter about how we make decisions around clean energy and sustainability. But even if we get to 2050 and we miss the mark a little bit, if we get to 80% or even 60%, I still call it a win in terms of, you know, a cleaner future. And so obviously we want to be shooting for 100%, but there's no mechanism that would force anybody to do anything. It's merely a vision and and smart planning. The 2050 number comes from a scientific study from the International Panel on Climate Change that says that the way that our carbon output is progressing, we could be facing some serious environmental issues by 2050. So that's based on sort of time projections. If we sort of continue as we are now, then we'll be in some trouble in 2050. And so that trouble could lead to, you know, an inability to farm in this region, flooding of lands or severe droughts and flooding in the same year. It could lead to, you know, health issues through ticks and illness-borne diseases or vector-borne diseases. Or, you know, as the temperature rises, our water quality gets worse. And so I know that with the lake in Menominee and the watershed there, that's a big concern as well. So all of these things that we're sort of already seeing, you know, are projected to get worse to sort of a really important point in time where we can't really come back from it in 2050. So that's how we decided on the year 2050 in Eau Claire based on that. And that's sort of where a lot of communities have been using as their gauge. But again, it's, you know, that's something that is completely up to the county board. That date is something that you could decide.
Okay. Nick, do you have a question? There's a hand by your name. Do you have a question? Guess not. Okay. Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
Just one more thing. I think this is admirable to develop a plan to come up with and recommend being carbon free by 2050. But again, like I said, without being the generator of the power, and Don, I commend you for paying the extra to be carbon free. But I can tell you that electron that's coming into your house doesn't know where it was generated. It doesn't know if it was hydro or nuclear or whatever. So, but I see a benefit to planning this for the county facilities and to be carbon free by 2050. But we're going to need a lot of help from the utility companies in order to have that happen, unless we decide to put solar catchment systems on all our buildings to generate our own electricity. There's no guarantee that we're going to be carbon free by 2050.
Yeah, Tim, just a correction. What I'm doing basically is forcing Xcel to find more renewable energy. That's what I'm doing, because I know the electrons don't know where they're coming from.
Yep.
Okay, and here again, it all depends on what resources each county has, because when you read through the down in La Crosse County, where they have the French Island waste energy plant, and so you know, it all depends on what tools that we do have available to us. And but here again, if there's no more further questions for detail, then I'm going to ask the Facilities Committee, do you think that we need to form a committee or move forward on actually creating a resolution for Dunn County? So that was the main reason I wanted to have this forum this evening, was to ask you, do you think this is something we want to pursue? And I thank Don for here again getting all this other information and sending it out. It was interesting reading through. There's a lot of information here. Some of it, like I said, I liked it because they actually had action plans and they had metrics to measure, are they making progress or not? Because in my opinion, it doesn't pay to have a resolution if you don't have a plan to say how you're going to accomplish this set goal. And so I'm throwing it out to the floor. Do do you think this is something we need to start working towards to actually create a committee? And do we want to have an ad hoc? I mean, there's so much information, even though we have gathered a lot of it already, we will have to sit down and figure out where we want to go if that's your wishes. So at this time, I'm just asking you what's the committee's wishes?
Is there a cost involved for us?
Well, there's always a cost, and actually we've already spent the cost, because when we had John gather the data for the electricity, I mean, we've already spent money with his time and energy gathering the stuff for our other solar issues, but the cost would determine on what our plan is and how we want to approach it. I mean, you could. Because and I forget where it was at, they have actually put it in their budget to have a cost. So there's always a cost, because whenever you have a person that's on the county payroll doing research, you're taking their time towards this project, which could be going towards something else. So there is a cost involved, but the thing would be is, in the budget process, do we actually want to have a line item that says, you know, out of our facilities budget, are we going to, you know, work that in there some way, somehow? And that's a good point for discussion, as far as that goes. So any other?
I think that would be the benefit of forming the committee and developing the plan, because the plan could be, you know, a 10, 20-year plan that basically says that, you know, in 5 years, we're going to change this facility building to geothermal. Yes, there is going to be a cost associated with that. In 10 years, we might say that on the building, Dunn County building for highway department, we might want to say, well, you know, in 10 years, we're going to put solar panels out there so that they're generating some electricity from solar and do the geothermal, a combination of both. I would think that those are the things that this committee would start to look into, develop the plan, and with that plan, there will have to be a budget associated with that. And then there will be measurements associated with, okay, have we attained this by doing this?
Sure.
So yes, there is a benefit to forming a separate committee to look into what we can do.
Okay. Ron, what's your thoughts?
Trying to unmute myself.
Yep, we can hear you now.
We could probably get some people that work at the power company, you know, try to, you know, like what Don says, try to, you know, get them to think on how to save energy. And I think it would be all right to have a committee to get the thoughts to help us out to get the plan going. And that's a lot of work, a lot of thoughts. If we can get people, you know, from all these other committees, from other, like from Eau Claire County and La Crosse, and get ideas from them, that would help too. That'll be it.
Okay, thanks. And I know, Don, I know you're in favor of it, obviously, and I am too. I think it wholeheartedly justifies the time and the effort. And will it be hard? Yeah, but anything worthwhile is hard. So what I would like you to do is to read through all the literature that Don sent out, and why don't you committee members send me what you like about the La Crosse County thing, what you like about the Eau Claire County, and what you like about the Eau Claire City, whatever. And so we need to put together bits and pieces out of each one of these, I feel, and start moving forward on this. So that's what I would like to have you do. And then we'll tab, you know, I mean, we'll be in communications with each other as far as where we're at and what we're doing. And also, I guess I would like to, Kate, in the future, be in contact with you, if that's okay with you, and we'll move forward on this. So that was my intent this evening, was to have the people talk and get what your thought processes were. And I believe we've accomplished that this evening. So is there any other comments before we close off this topic? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
What was the date to that email that Don sent us all that information?
Oh,
Do you know that, Don?
Maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago, I think,
yeah.
roughly.
I read it, but I didn't save it, so.
Okay.
I can send them again. Mike, I can send them again to you.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Does anybody else need it sent out to them, or do you still have it on your?
Yeah, Don, send it to me too, please.
Okay.
Yes, Don, if you'd add me also, I didn't print it out. It'd be a lot simpler if you'd just send it again.
Okay, I'll send it to everybody, and then you can erase it
Thank
if you
you.
want to see.
Okay, thank you. I think it was a great discussion, and thank you, Kate, for your input and everything you're doing in this field. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Don, I
Okay.
just forwarded that on to everybody, Dave, Mike, and Tim, so they should have it.
Pardon me?
John said he already just forwarded it on to the people that requested it, so you don't need to do
Oh,
that.
okay. Oh,
I
thank
saw
you.
it. Thank you, John.
Okay, then we'll go back to the top of 5.5A, new government center sign. John, are you responding to this one, or who's responding to this?
I got this one, Chuck.
Oh, you got it, Scott.
I
Okay.
got this.
Okay, what do you got for us?
Well, Paul and I have been working together to figure out for a new sign for the government center. You guys remember the street sign logo contest that we had? We took that logo and had a sign company do some mock-ups of signs examples, and Paul and I talked about them. I have the ones that were sent out in the packet. You guys should have seen there were 3 of them. We want to get the committee's thoughts on the 3 different signs. Take a look at them, get your ideas and where we should go from here going forward on this. If you guys haven't seen them, I'm going to try and share my screen here. Right here. Can you see that?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the 3 that we picked out. Paul and I looked at them. We decided a green and yellow in the logo, and then we did an example. The D1 has a lighter green for the border, and then D2 has the logo by itself, not emphasized as much in the sign. Then with the blue Dunn County, and then the green background behind Government Center. D3 has the smaller logo, but then black writing with the paler green behind the Government Center.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So part of what the Facilities Committee wants to think about is not just the sign for the Government Center. We're going to want to follow the same format as we re-sign other facilities. So eventually the Highway, Department of Judicial Center, and even the neighbors. So for instance, in the D1 example, Dunn County and Government Center, the text is all together as a single statement. Whereas in D2 and D3, you have Dunn County in the logo, with the ability to differentiate by virtue of the banner across the lower half, the actual building facility itself. Does the D1, work fine, or does D2 or D3 type mock-up work better if we're trying to differentiate between the different facilities? That's the kinds of considerations. What we're wanting your input. It isn't necessarily an action item, but we are looking to see if we have a consensus. But like I say, bear in mind, and Bob's going to talk about the campus plan later on in your meeting. This is an important element of that campus plan. This is a unifying element of this campus plan. A final thing I will also note, if we choose the Dunn County logo, by the way, we did change it from what you guys approved. The logo that you approved, the vertical stripes were gray. The intention there was to denote the developed portions of the county. Buildings are gray, and the horizontal green stripes were for the agricultural rural portions. But it occurred to Scott and I that, well, buildings, gray is not a real yummy color, but buildings in the sunlight, you have yellow on the side. And for some reason, yellow and green seems to appeal to Wisconsinites. So that's why that change. But that's really keep in mind that this is not only for signage on the road. We're wanting to use this logo. So the logo in the Dunn County portion, for instance, for branding in other instances too. This will be potentially on our website. This will be, in fact, it'll definitely be on our website. So Krista's listening closely. This could be on correspondence. This could be on promotional brochures. This could be on tourist-related pamphlets and things of that nature. So please keep that in mind too as you think through these options.
Well, actually, I like D3 myself. It stands out, and my eyesight isn't as good as what it used to be, and I like the big bold letters. What's anybody else's input?
Maybe go around the table, Chuck.
Yeah, okay. Don, what do you think?
Well, when I first looked at these three, when I got it off the internet, it seemed like there was a little bit of disconnect between in D2 and D3. It says Dunn County and then the government center. That's why I kind of like D1 because it flows better. And I can see where you're coming from with D2 and D3, because then you can put a different building or facility under, the bottom portion. But I kind of like the flow that Dunn County Government Center, it's all right there. And you don't have to wonder, well, this is Dunn County and what is the government center? It's a little separate. That's just my first impression when I saw it.
Okay. Mike, what do you think?
Well, what Don said is making me think a little bit now. Originally, I was going to say I really like the bottom ones, D3 more so because it kind of jumps out there. The logo itself doesn't draw my eyes to anything. It doesn't really jump out at me, but I think once you brand it, it'll still work the same. But Don does make a point about the flow of one. It flows nice, but I would lean toward D3 myself because it does allow you to put that on multiple different buildings.
Okay, Ron, what do you think?
I like D3 because it's you can see it because it's it's got black letters. The logo kind of looks smaller than the first one, and I'm more into the lettering than the logo. So D3.
Okay, Tim?
Leave me for last.
Well, we always save the best for last,
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of jumping around to a number of these, and my first thought when I looked at D2 and D3, and I looked at D1, and I kind of like the the larger logo on D1, and I like the black on the white. My concern on D3, and I'll just kind of throw this out there for anybody to think about, is that if you're driving and it's a lower light conditions, you're going to see the Dunn County, but because of the green and the black lettering, you're probably not going to make out the black lettering against that green background. Just a thought. And that's kind of why I'm going, okay, D2, if you had Dunn County there and you had the government center in white on a green background, I think that's going to jump out more in a lower light condition. And you know that we live up here in the great Northwest, and during the winter months, we have a lot of low light conditions. So I do like one, but I do like also that now if you're talking about for all the different buildings, if you're talking about the highway department or whatever and doing Dunn County Highway Department underneath, I think that separation is good. And I think the white lettering on the green background would stick out more in low light conditions.
Yeah.
It's my thought.
Oh, yeah.
Good point. I will observe these are internal or backlit signs. So regardless of the lighting conditions, they'll be internally illuminated. Is that not correct, Scott, for all the signs we have?
No, the only sign that we have that is internally lit would be the neighbors sign. The rest of them are all externally lit.
That's interesting. I did not know that about the government center sign. I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yep. That's got lights out in the lawn shining at the sign.
In that case, I withdraw my comment, Supervisor Neoff. You're correct about the lighting is a consideration.
And also, we could have one done up with the colors of D3, changing the government center part to white to see what that looked like also.
Fundamentally, you'd be talking about the top of D3 and the bottom of D2.
Yes. If we wanted D3 put with just white lettering with that green on the bottom.
Yeah, that darker green.
Different greens.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good idea. I guess it's hard for me to envision how that would look without actually seeing it. I guess I would like to see that. Because I never thought about the low light conditions like Tim talked about, and that's why we had you last, Tim, because you brought forth some very, good thinking. You had time to think about this as everybody else was speaking. So,
And from that standpoint, I do like the green that's on D3 better than I like the green that's on D2. So
I agree.
The green that's on the bottom of D3 it makes a difference. It's a lighter shade than the green in the logo, and I agree on that point too, Supervisor Neoff, that mimicking the green as they do on D2 is less effective to me than having slightly different shades as they do on D3.
okay, so can we get a sample of D3 with the white lettering for government center then for the next meeting?
I sure can.
Okay.
Is our preference of the black, because D3 has black lettering on all of it.
Right.
D2 and D1 have blue lettering.
Black.
So D2, the Dunn County, is blue lettering.
Really?
Yeah.
Blue?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Looks black to me.
Yeah.
So-
Actually, if you look at it, you'll see that the D3, the black lettering of Dunn County, is actually easier to read than the slightly blue of D2.
Yes.
I'm curious, Chairman Maves,
Yes.
if we can get a relatively quick turnaround, we could also send the mock-up via email and just do kind of a individual email poll, thumbs up, thumbs down kind of a thing.
Okay.
Although there's no super rush, Scott, I don't know if the sign company is expecting us to make an order or something like that in February.
No, there's not a rush on it,
Okay.
but I can email them, get that turned around and get that sent out to everyone. And
Just one other thought. Could we see that with the government center in yellow, kind of like what the yellow is on the sign, on the logo?
so
White,
D-
and so we get it in white, D3 with the government center in white, and D3 with the government center in yellow.
Sure.
Okay.
How big is that sign? 142 inches? By
Yep, 142 inches, so just under 12 feet.
And just under 6 feet.
Just under 6 feet high, yes.
Okay, Scott, if you can get them made up and sent out and then everybody respond back, that'd be great.
Yep, I'll do that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, item 5B, staff update regarding COVID-19. Is that you, Scott?
I can give an update on my staff as far as COVID-19. We had only one staff that was out on quarantine for 14 days. Otherwise, everyone else has not missed a day of work. All of my staff have gotten their first round of vaccination, all except for one over at the neighbors, because we do on call at the neighbors. Our second shot is due on Monday. We're getting that. Things are going good with that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Scott on that? Okay. Okay, if not, we'll go down to 5D, Red Cedar Racing 2021 racing season. I had this put on there because I've been contacted by the Red Cedar Racing as far as where are we at, and they have made up a racing schedule based upon the racing dates that, if under normal situations, when they would start racing, etc. And they were just wondering what they could do to help us move along to, if other than, because it seemed like last time a lot of the discussion was on the bathrooms as far as the cleaning and things like that. And my response was, well, based on the COVID numbers the way they are, I don't think there's much change in the in where the county stands. But so I'm just throwing it out there for discussion, because the Racing Association they're going out to sponsors right now, looking to get, they're doing their normal sponsorship drives. And the sponsors obviously are asking, well, are you going to race? When are you going to race? So the association needs to have some sort of an answer. So I'm just throwing it out there for general discussion as to, yes, Mr. Miller.
Has the Racing Association supplied their wish list in terms of dates for our review? And I'm thinking in particular of our health department.
I do have a copy. Yes, they gave me a copy, which I did not forward yet out, but I will forward that to you, everybody on the board, and to you and the health department as to what their tentative schedules are. They have a, based upon what our agreed contract was as far as start date, etc.
So this committee, I will recommend, will want to avail itself of our health director's input. I'm not going to foreshadow what KT may have to say, but I think it's important that she get a chance to look at the schedule, understanding that it's a wish list, understanding that it may need to be changed. But I think KT Gallagher needs to have that and needs to be able to talk to this committee in order for you to have an informed decision.
Sure, I will get it sent out. Here again, one of the discussions was we do have case history now. Last year it was just all new to everybody, and so there's a lot of what ifs. So I will send this schedule out to everybody, and we will have it on next month's agenda again for further discussion. And that way you guys can take a look to see what they're proposing. And they were here again, just like last year, more than willing to do anything they need to do to work with us on this. I mean, they're very upfront, tell us what we need to do and we'll do it. So here again, it's a very open street and, two-way conversation. Yes, Mike, go ahead.
What is this, is the Hockey Association playing hockey, and how does that correlate with the Racing Association? If hockey's going to move forward, is racing in the same situation? And I think we need to kind of be on the same playing field.
Okay.
Yeah, I can offer,
okay.
Mr. Chair, if it's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Supervisor Rogers, they're not on the same playing field. The Youth Hockey Association's lease does not have the same provisions in it that the Red Cedar Racing lease does, which grants to the county the authority to potentially shut down operations. As you'll recall, this committee in December talked twice about hockey's and ended up making the recommendation that it not hold games. The Youth Hockey's response was, well, we appreciate that, but you don't have the authority to tell us not to. And so we're going to, and they are. Red Cedar Racing is not in the same situation. The ability of the county to mandate whether or not racing takes place on county grounds at the rec park is clear and is there. So it is a different situation.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
No,
Oh,
that answered my question. I like the clarification there.
sure. Okay. Does anybody else have any comments at this time on it? Okay. I will then get this sent out to everybody for your review, and we'll have it on our agenda for next month, and we'll talk about it then. Okay. So we'll go down to 6, staff and recreation reports, fair and fair board. Deb.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to make mine really short. You received my report in the packet. We are moving ahead with our Meat Animal Project Committee, pulling that under the fair. We have bylaws that we're working on updated. Probably the biggest thing is that it's a non-mandatory weigh-in. Kids can choose whether or not they want to weigh animals in this year. We have protocol in place. It will take place on Saturday, February 6th, and it's outside, which it's usually in a building. So we're outside, and I outlined what we are putting in place there to use to keep people safe. And I guess I don't really have any other things other than, well, I guess I could mention that WAF, or Wisconsin Association of Affairs, canceled their convention. Of course, I mentioned that last time we did have our annual meeting, and I was elected president again of that association. So I'm excited to continue my work on that piece of the state program. And then also we will kick off our Talk It Out Tuesdays that we'll be starting to replace our sessions at the convention. So we have the educational piece from the state side that everybody will be allowed to attend from our county fair board members. Entertain any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions for Deb? Okay, if not, thanks, Deb. We'll move on to facilities and parks divisions operations.
You guys received my report that's sent out with the packet. I included a report from a project that was done by a class at UW Stout. Hopefully you got to read through that. If anybody has any questions, I can try and answer those. And if anybody has any questions on my report, I'll answer those.
Don, you got a question?
Yeah, Scott, I was just wondering, I read your report and you've had to change custodians 2, 3 times.
Yes.
Does that kind of indicate that the vendor you're working with doesn't do a good job of selecting people, or? I was just curious.
Not necessarily. It is the pool that is out there currently with the times. It's been affected by a lot of factors with COVID going on. It depends on how people can, if they're off for COVID reasons or if they're able to stay on unemployment or things like that. It just depends on what they have for workers. Our last one that was at the neighbors was older. She thought it was too much work, so she decided to move on from it. We have a younger guy in there now at the neighbors. He is working out very well, but unfortunately, he will be moving on in the spring as far as going to his landscaping job.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next thing, projects. Here again, it's in your report there.
Yep.
Unless you have any other comments to make.
Nothing as far as projects.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention to you guys, you asked about Champney Park, the parking situation down there.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I just wanted to give you a report back about that I did check on that. And this year, no one is plowing parking spots for themselves in the park. I did not see any evidence of anybody parking in the park side in the snow. So that's a good sign.
Good. Okay, facilities fleet.
There's not much that has changed now in the last month there. We ordered the Malibus. I'm expecting to receive those probably the end of April, beginning of May. It's been pretty quiet with the limited use, obviously due to COVID on there. So as far as repairs, breakdowns, incidents, anything like that, pretty quiet on the facilities fleet side.
Okay, great. Financial report, you did send that out. Any comments?
Any questions on that financials?
Okay, energy.
I do have a couple updates there. Last Thursday, I talked with Dave Plume from Eagle Point Solar. He's pretty much done with our report on the neighbors. It's been hit and miss. He said COVID has gone through their office a couple of times. So he said projects have been slow going, but he's to the point now to where we can schedule a time to go over our whole report. There's been a couple changes there. Barry, the former owner of Eagle Point, has decided to retire, and another investor in the Dubuque area, I believe, has bought it out. It's basically going to change. Eagle Point Solar will still be the same. The entities that actually fund and finance some of these operations, it's going to be like Eagle Point or Eagle Valley 2 versus Barry is still going to remain a financial investor of his original projects, but they have changed the reins as in Eagle Point Solar itself. Dave says he will sit down with me as soon as I get Austin up and running over in transit. I'm going to get the information together. It's $200,000 or $220,000 for our solar project for transit. Dave and I will sit down and walk through that, and he is basically going to help us get going in the right direction. Since we already have that one financed, it's just a matter of getting things lined up and going in the right direction to basically put this thing in play. Then what we will do is when he gets his final report done with the neighbors, we will sit down and analyze what would be feasible for all of our different buildings. First of all, figure out feasibility, and then if they are feasible, then we could look into if we bring in one of these investors to basically finance the whole thing over a certain period, or if it's something that we'd be able to self-finance. He's going to run the gamut and tell us if it's feasible, and then if it is feasible, what our financing options are, or how to get it off the ground. So I'm assuming that that's probably going to take place here over the next 3 or 4 months. So I'm hoping by late spring, early summer, we would at least have a yay or nay on each one of our facilities, whether it's even feasible right now or not. And then we'd have a better handle on how we can proceed with transit, because that we do have the money for.
Okay, very good. Any questions? Yeah, Mike.
So help clue me in here a little bit. If we have the money to self-finance the one building, what does this Eagle Point bring to the table for us?
Eagle Point, but basically they'll sit down with us and they'll help us with the engineering, the contractor side of it, and what he wants to do now. And we know how much money we have, and we know in theory the size of our system. But now we actually need the nuts and bolts side of it. Now we need the shop drawings, the specs, the actual equipment. Right now it's like 50 kW, and we know a typical 50 kW system is in that $200,000 to $220,000 range. So we know what size we need, or what size we're able to get, and we know how much money that's going to cost. Now we basically need the nuts and bolts, the plan side of it. So that's where Eagle Point is kind of our consultant, and we'll work with him from the ground up. Right now, Barry has stayed on because they are still trying to settle this We Energies lawsuit. And that's what's hinging the whole thing on our bigger, the CSB, the judicial, these bigger systems. It's all going to depend on what the outcome of that lawsuit is. So it sounds like they're starting to get close, because he said now the lawyers have been going back and forth, and the We Energies, they're demanding a lot of documents, and it's documents that have already been provided. So now basically the lawyers are saying, hey, we got all the information. Now a decision has to be made. So I'm assuming that if this comes out favorably for us, then Xcel Energy kind of would force their hands to allow us to sell back to the grid if we overproduce. Right now, that's the hurdle. If we can't put power back onto the grid, we're limited to the size of system we can put out there.
Yeah, Don.
You know, it's kind of interesting. I was reading in this book called Climate Forward, and it was published about 4 years ago. But the city of Monona, which I guess is near Madison probably, they put in a system, and they're powering most of their buildings, their city buildings. And they had the same thing where, you know, they shouldn't really do this because there is a law in Wisconsin that says only regulated utilities can sell electricity. But it was kind of interesting. The gas and electric company in Madison said it was okay for them to do it. So apparently, if you can get permission from the power company, then the law is moot, which seems kind of strange. But at least this was 4 or 5 years ago now. Maybe you know, things have tightened up. And I remember talking to Scholz one time, and he says, no, he says it's illegal for you guys to generate power. But I thought this was kind of interesting story. So I think we've got a good chance anyway.
Yep, and that's why on the highway side of it, I think with our outlying shops being Dun Energy, we have a better chance, A, because we're dealing with a co-op, and B, our facilities are a lot smaller, our power requirements are a lot smaller. So not only are with smaller power requirements, the whole system to get to power up one of my outlying shops is a fraction of a cost to the home shop here in Menominee or judicial or the jail or anything like that. It's just those little hurdles are going to be a lot easier to achieve than trying to get CSB all solar or judicial. The judicial and jail is definitely our biggest energy consumer by far.
Mhm.
So which that'll be the most expensive, but I think things are moving in the right direction. The solar stuff is coming down. This grant with transit, at least we're going to be on the map here, hopefully by fall, that transit doesn't consume a lot of energy, but that's going to be green, self-sufficient. It's going to be up and running. And then we got something here that we can actually set our hands on and say, you know what, here it is. Now all we got to do is scale it up. And this is what it's going to take. And if we have to get one of these outside investors to come in and help finance it, if we don't have the cash, but I'm hoping here by late spring, early summer, we'll have those answers. And then I think we'll know how aggressive we can be and which direction we go to explore things.
Sounds good.
Mike,
I guess that's not quite what I was asking. I was kind of asking, my point was, why is it that we're not getting bids on the solar system? We're only going through one supplier.
They're kind of just the engineering side of it. So I believe once we figure out what we need for inverters and panels and all that, that'll all go out to bid per the DOT, the grant requirements. So right now, basically what they are is just an engineer and consultant. So now that we know how big of a system, they're going to say, okay, you need a 50 kW system. So now they're going to help us size inverters, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and panel size and wattage for the panels. And then once we get a spec together, that will go out to bid. With a contractor too to install it.
But aren't they're selling us the electricity at a cheaper price than what XL would sell us the energy at, correct? The investors are. So they're still taking
yes. If we would go basically with the third party, basically an offshoot, and and they would finance it, yes, essentially they're financing it, and then over time you're buying the system. But for right now, all we're using them for is basically a consultant to help us figure out what equipment we need so we can put a spec together and go out to bid. And since we have a DOT grant that we're utilizing, we won't need any financing. The DOT grant is essentially what's going to pay for our system. But right now we need an engineering consultant that knows these systems to help us basically put a spec together and then help us get started so we can put it through the bidding process and secure a contractor, secure equipment.
When we have that grant, they're not taking a cut off our
Nope.
Thank you.
He's just basically providing consulting services to help me establish what I need so I can take this thing to go out to bid. Basically free advice is what I'm getting from him.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or discussions on energy? If not, miscellaneous, nothing on miscellaneous. Item 6C, Corporation Council Staff Report, none. Get down to D, Environmental Services Department, Mr. Colson, Outdoor Rec Plan.
Yes, I'd sent over at the end of each year, or in the beginning of each year, I meet with Mr. Miller, and at the beginning of each year, I set out a list of goals, both for the department and individual goals, and at the end of the year, we review those to just see just how far we got, and then what we're going to do for the upcoming year. So I sent you both of those documents, the review from last year and what I plan to do this year. And the reason that I gave you both of those is that I just wanted you to understand last year there were a lot of things that didn't get done. Part of it COVID related, part of it staffing, but there were a lot of things that just didn't get done. And some of those things are in your guys' corner. And so for the 2021, I wanted to speak to the committee to let them know the situation and to just get some feedback as to your take, your priorities, what you want to do, where you want to go with some of these things. And I have 4 bullet points that are in the document that I have historically been to your committee to report on and to make these things happen. And so the Recreation Park Master Plan, that has got to be the most unluckiest plan I've ever worked on. I've started it twice, and both times it never got to finish the darn thing. It doesn't look like that we're going to have the resources to pick that up and to continue that. And I don't know, what the committee's barometer temperature is on that. But what I want to be very clear on is that I want to undercommit to the committee, but over deliver rather than the other way around. And so I'm just telling you that I'm probably not going to be able to get to the master plan, the rec park master plan. There's the implementation of the bicycle pedestrian plan, and that also is pretty iffy in terms of this year. I have on there the county campus plan, and I spoke with Mr. Miller, and that is I think of the plans that were started and that have a lot of merit. That is one that with my background and also with Mr. Miller's background, I think it would be a very beneficial plan for the county to have. It's going to be a challenge, and my original thought was to eliminate it. Mr. Miller would like to me consider keeping it on there. I don't disagree. And then the last one is the outdoor recreation plan, and that one is a 5-year plan, so it doesn't really have any impact for this year, other than the things that we would do on an annual basis may take a little bit longer. So I guess I would like to go back and just bullet point by bullet point, have the committee chime in as to what it thinks its priorities are in terms of planning time. So starting with the rec park master plan, we started that. We got quite a ways. We had some great stuff, but we didn't get a chance to finish it. I'm just wondering what the committee's taking us on its priority as to getting that plan completed.
I guess my thought process is the fact, because of COVID just upended everything, but the limited resources as far as staffing and stuff. I think what we've got accomplished on it so far is good, but I don't really know if we have the resources to push that any further at this time. So I'm looking for input from any of the other board members.
And before, it's more than just the resources. I need to understand, your priorities, because that, you can shift things to some degree, but if I don't understand where your priorities are, it makes it difficult to even try to shift things. So.
Okay. Input from
Isn't this primarily for the for the fair, to change buildings and stuff, as I remember?
Well, that was one of the big big things for it when we first started. And the second time it was also for the fair, but also to see if we wanted to relocate the park, and then what it would take and what would go with and what would stay. Given that it looks like that the park is going to stay where it's at, there's I think that the fair board still doesn't know what it can do in terms of where things can go as it wants to expand or move things around. It's and maybe Deb can speak to this, but it's almost a circus in terms of trying to organize where things go and what to do, just because of space limitations. And so that was that. So yes, it was really more for the fair than anything else, but there was also the talk about relocating and starting over and what it would take. So
Deb, do you have any comments to make at this time on that?
I guess the only comment I would have at this time is that with not having a fair last year, and we don't know what this year is going to look like, we've kind of put that all aside because of just trying to either put in place a modified fare, or last year especially was our modified fare, and this year we don't know what's moving forward. So at this time, it's probably lower on our priority list just to get through everything and try to get back to having our fair. We do have a couple new fair board members that haven't experienced a full fair from the management side. They've been there many years and attended the fair, but not knowing how everything comes together and where it's at. And we're looking for a couple new fair board, or a couple more fair board members. We have a couple vacancies. So right now, I guess I don't have a lot of input with this. Would we like some new buildings? Would we like some improvements made? Absolutely. But we haven't had time to really even focus on putting anything together, or our dream list, other than what we had started with Bob back, well, it must be 2 years ago already, probably. Maybe
it's been
3.
a while, Deb.
Yeah. So but we have our dream list and different things that we would like to see done. But right now, our main priority is to just try to organize and pull off a 2021 fair this summer.
Right, and I believe as far as the relocation aspect, because of the costs that were presented back then, that's that's a moot point too, because
Right.
it's going to stay where it is for now.
I think
Yeah.
that was decided, yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And so that kind of,
Yeah.
we also thought at the time, then that kind of, now we at least have direction and where we can go when we can get back to working on some of this. But it is more difficult when you have Zoom meetings and you can't, brainstorm in person and do those in-person meetings where we can all be in one location. So hopefully we can be doing some heavy thinking and get back on track with this.
Okay, getting back to the county campus master plan, the discussion was, what was your thoughts on that, Bob?
Well, I think it's a great plan. They're all great plans. Or most of them. I'm not too keen on the outdoor rec plan because we don't. It's something that we inventory, but we don't really get anything from the state from recreation dollars, and that's what it's there for, to garner some money from the state. But the county campus master plan, I mean, with the branding, the new logo, some wayfinding, things like the solar fields, all of those things probably would be much easier to deal with and to plan for if there was an overall master campus plan. And now that that we're all pretty much in this one area, it makes even more sense to have a plan. Circulating between buildings and between other facilities, walking trails and stuff. All of those things need to be talked about, and so I think it's an important plan. And of those that are on there, if there was one that I would A, really want to work on, and B, I think would be of the most benefit to the county, I think that is probably of the 4, one that I think that you should really consider.
Okay, Mr. Miller, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to echo what Bob said. In terms of ones that we can do, plans that we can do, that we have the resources, the county campus plan is not particularly complicated. A lighting element, a landscaping element, a signage element, along with identification of future growth areas. I mean, there will come a time when we will need additional buildings or to expand existing buildings, and identifying those growth areas, and then the internal linkages, the pedestrian, bike, hike linkages, reserving those areas so those can happen, both for internal circulation of employees and visitors, but also we have people that walk through and bike through. And so building a campus plan that's cohesive, that works together, that we can follow and implement, we're not going to regret it. It's not a huge endeavor. I think if Bob and I could find a week to sit down together, we could probably put out a good part of that ourselves. I'm not suggesting we do that, but we probably could.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be something that'll really serve the county in the future.
Okay. Committee members, your consensus, focus on that one item or anything else that open for comments at this time. Don, what do you think?
Seems to me should have the highest priority, because the other two, one can wait, and the rec park, it looks like that's a little bit in flux now too because of CODIV. So I'd say go for the master plan of the campus.
Okay, Tim?
Just so the committee knows, I mean, the fact that we pull them off to work on them this year doesn't mean that they're gone. They're going to stay on the list, right? Because I think they're important until I'm told, no, we're not even going to do it. So,
right. Tim, what's your thoughts?
I would agree with what Don mentioned and what's been talked about. Campus master plan should be the top of the priority list. The other two should remain there, but lower priority.
Okay, Ron? Can't hear you. You're muted. There you go.
Is Judicial's building with the roof part of the master plan?
Well, the building would be, that's kind of a maintenance issue, replacing a roof. But expanding that facility or making links to it or other things, would be part of the master plan. But I don't think that we would be looking at a maintenance schedule.
Oh, okay. And then you're just thinking about putting trees and parking lot and paths and any other buildings, or?
Yeah, I mean, everything that the county has that's on the ground, and everything that they want to grow as a county needs to be accounted for, so that we know that we're not going to put something in the way for something we want tomorrow.
So how many acres are we talking about?
Well, we own quite a bit of land. If you put a boundary all the way from the neighbors all the way around to the county shop and then back, that's a significant chunk of land that is the campus.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be a priority to work on that.
Okay, Mike?
The campus plan, of course, would be a priority. And as far as the rec park, of course, we don't have the funds to move it, but to put some thought into what the future plans might be so they have some idea what direction they're going without putting a lot of energy into it at this time.
And then again, to reiterate, Mike, I mean, we won't have a chance to work on the rec park plan as much this year doesn't mean that A, that there isn't discussions, and B, that we can't do something next year when COVID is gone, or at least in the background, and the park and the fair is coming back to what it used to be. So.
Okay, so I guess that's the direction there then, Bob. Your main focus would be on the county campus plan then.
All righty.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Next one, 7A, Gold Leaf Cafe easement. Nick Lang, would you care to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. It's back in 2008 in June, the Dunn County Facilities Committee approved a non-permanent easement to permit the Golden Leaf Cafe, essentially to permit them to have a drive-through. So between their building, and does everybody know which business I'm talking about here? This is, it's next to the car wash on Stout Road. It's a little coffee shop there. Well, there wasn't enough room between the building and the county's, the fairgrounds, the rec park. They wanted to put in a drive-through so that people could drive in and order coffee, and just like at McDonald's. And so the county, the facilities committee approved a non-permanent easement for them to do that. So they came in, they moved the fence over, they jogged it over a little bit to the south and put some pavement back in there. At some point in time, I think our guys from the facilities division ended up taking down a tree that was near the area, or near the area of the easement. And well, the easement says that it automatically terminates if the current owner transfers ownership of the property to someone else. And in the event that that would occur, then they have to restore the fence and take the pavement off of the county's land, and the easement expires. Well, the owners are trying to sell the property now. A couple of weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, I was contacted by a realtor who asked if the facilities committee would be interested or be willing to authorize me to enter into another easement agreement. So it's not a grant of an easement, it's an agreement, and it's signed by. This one was signed by Gene Smith and the owner, Alina Hines, I think the owner of the corporation that runs the business. So anyway, they were wondering if the committee would be willing to enter into another agreement with a new owner for a drive-through. And so that's really what I guess I'm here to ask you is, are you willing to enter into a new temporary or non-permanent easement agreement with a new owner if they were to sell the business? I think it has an impact on how much, what it could be used for, probably the purchase price and so forth. And I think, without knowing that, there's apparently one or more prospective buyers who are interested, but they want to know if the drive-through is going to have to go away or not.
Okay, so that's the case history on it. I think, I would be in favor of it, because if it helps the business sell and it keeps the business in town, that whole aspect of keeping businesses going, and we've lived with it this long, and I don't think the county has suffered any harm or damage by it. But I will throw it out to the floor for discussions. What are your thoughts? Don?
Well, if we take the easement back, we'd have to repair the fence, tear up everything. I doubt if it's worth it.
Well,
How many feet, Nick, is it? 6 feet, 5 feet, or?
I don't know if I know that.
Can't be a whole lot of
Technically,
area.
they would have to remediate the property.
Oh, they
They
would?
could leave
I
the
see.
pavement that's on their property, but they'd have to remove it from the county's property. And
Oh.
my guess is it's probably somewhere between 2.5 to 4 feet. It's.
I
drove through there
agree.
once, and it's pretty tight still, but cars and trucks can get through there.
I agree with Chuck. I don't think it's worth, going backwards. And this might mean they couldn't sell it too.
Any other comments? Okay. Dave?
I would be in favor of leaving it as long as there's a stipulation that the business stays like it is now for a drive-through a reason for the drive-through to be there in the business. I would hate for it to become a different business and not need a drive-through, and they have this. Then I think it should go back to the way it was.
And I agree with that, and that would be my recommendation. That is, if it, you know, like if someone bought it as a place to sell Pokemon cards or whatever, you know, they wouldn't need a drive-through. So then there'd be no reason to have the easement. But if someone wanted to continue the restaurant type of business that's in there right now, the drive-through would be beneficial and a part of their business arrangement. So my recommendation, if you did approve it, would be, you know, so long as the business that's occupying it is being used, or, you know, that a drive-through would be consistent with the business use.
Okay. Any other thoughts or discussion?
Since you mentioned Gene Smith, that's been a long time ago that they did that document. So it sounds pretty good, you know. They can keep it the same.
Okay, Mike?
How long does that continue then? Is it as long as the new owner has it, or is it something the county can rescind at some time, which I see no reason they would, but if they chose to?
I guess that, you know, that's an area of flexibility too. I mean, you could set a definite term on it. This particular easement is set to expire if the owner sells the property. And that's not a bad measurement of it, you know. They've been good neighbors. I've never heard any complaints. There were at one time, there were 3 trees that were very closely nestled together right near the building, right by the easement area. And one of the trunks actually was pretty much completely over the fence and hanging over the top of their building. And I think they were not pleased with the amount of leaves that were falling off the county-owned tree. But once that got resolved, there haven't been any issues brought to my attention. I think the facilities guys just went out there and cut the tree down or trimmed it way back. And so it could be, you know, you could set it the same way, that it would expire or that it would terminate upon a transfer of ownership.
Okay, Mike, you have another comment?
I like what Dave said though, too. If the drive-through is not necessary, then it should terminate then.
Tim, what do you think?
Well, I would agree with that last statement. If a drive-through isn't needed, does that mean that it's something that we have to change in the easement before a new person purchases the business?
No, if someone were to buy that, say, just to have a retail store, so they were going to sell greeting cards or whatever, they wouldn't need a drive-through, and we could just let the easement expire. If the purchaser wanted to continue it as a coffee shop or a place to get lunch, you know, sandwiches and bakery items, then I would just prepare another easement, non-permanent easement agreement, and execute that along with, or I would set it up for the county manager to sign it and the owner of the property to sign it. And it would, I think essentially it would say pretty much the same thing it does right now. It's pretty standard easement agreement. It has a requirement that they have insurance to protect the county's interests. So, you know, if something happens to someone when they're on the county property side of the line, and, you know, something happens, their insurance will cover it. So we don't have to worry about that. But it would be basically the same agreement that we have now, just with a different owner.
Okay. And then potentially, if that would sell, we do the same, we look at it the same way again. but they have,
I think it's a perfectly good approach to do it because it allows
Right.
you as Supervisor Bartlett noted, they don't need the drive-through, there's no reason to have the easement, and then they can just put the fence back and take up the asphalt and plant some grass seed, and everything's back to the way it was.
I agree.
Dave, yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking ahead here. If it's sold and the owner had it for one business that needed the drive-through for a few years, and then it changed to a different type of business that didn't need it, I think there should be something in there that then the easement ends.
I can do something with that. I can put language in there to cover that.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to basically continue with the easement or have Nick drop, the documentation that says as long as it stays business as is, we're in agreement with that? Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I so move.
Okay, a motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mike seconds it. The motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Okay. The next one, 7B, Accessibility Wisconsin Tract Wheelchair Agreement. Bob, is that you?
That is me again. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if it was last meeting, but I was to your group at one of your meetings, or maybe it was Highway. Man, these all run together.
No, it was this meeting.
It was that meeting. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Accessibility Wisconsin is a nonprofit organization, and they have grant monies and that they get, and they are willing to purchase a outdoor tracked wheelchair and a trailer, a covered trailer that it sits in, so that someone with some disabilities could check it out, take it to wherever they're going to go, get in that machine and get into the outdoors and experience outdoors from a wheelchair, and that resource is provided by Accessibility Wisconsin. They would still own it, but we would pretty much be the host of that. So there's no cost for the county in terms of purchasing that. They even do all of the major maintenance on that. And so what the county would be on the hook for is at least reserving a spot where the trailer could stay, and then the wheelchair would be inside the trailer, locked, and then a place where they could run a cord out and plug into our facilities to keep the battery charged on the machine. And then so that's kind of the big ticket item that the county would be on, and my last discussion with you folks, it didn't seem like that was going to be much of an issue. What I want to do is and I'm on the agenda next week with the Rotary Club to partner with them for some of the other pieces that go along with the responsibilities of having this wheelchair on a county facility. I did provide the committee with that document, that memorandum of agreement, and so you could read through, or hope you have read through the bullet points of the host responsibilities. My intention is to limit the county's exposure to these responsibilities, to things that really are the counties. Like I said, providing the storage, providing electricity. There's some things where there's requirement of if there's a fundraising event, that those donation receipts need to get back to AEW. It seems that would be something that the county would do, and it's probably going to be through this department. And any liability forms and photos, if they take them, and surveys, all of those things that go along with checking it out. the administration portion of it, the county would probably take on those responsibilities. But all of the other ones, I'll be speaking with the Rotary Club to see if they're willing to take on those responsibilities. If they don't, and I can't find another organization, then we're going to drop it, because I don't see that the county has the facilities or the resources to take this on, all of this on its own, and so it would be a shame. But so I'm looking to see if Rotary could take this on. What I'm here tonight for is to ask permission from the committee to, assuming that we get a nod from the Rotary Club, is permission to go ahead and submit the application for the machine. And then I would work both with the committee and to some degree with council to make sure that all of that is kosher. But I don't want to wait another month, given that I'm going to meet next month with Rotary. If I get those things all hammered out, I would like to go ahead and submit the application.
Okay, I think it's great. You showed the video last time, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity. So I support it wholeheartedly. So I would definitely be in agreement with that. Any other comments, or how does the committee feel? Tim, you had a thumbs up.
I had a big thumbs up. Right now I'm driving a special needs bus in the morning, and we have wheelchair people that we hope that we load into the bus, and I can see a big need, and this will do nothing but help those kids that are confined to a wheelchair.
Okay, great. Mike, you had a comment?
I agree the same. And if you don't get Rotary, maybe somebody else will step up also.
Ron?
I like the idea.
Okay, Don?
Yep, I'd say go ahead.
Okay.
Motion, Mr. Chair, it was an action item, just so it's in the minutes, that the county is on board with me submitting the application.
Okay, so we'll have the minutes show that it was consensus by the facilities committee to move forward on this process then.
Wonderful. I really appreciate it, and I'll keep the committee in the loop as to what happens here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, item 8, considerations, reports, resolutions, ordinances to be recommended. We have none. That brings us to our next meeting date, February 24th, 2021. Does anybody else have any other comments or suggestions at this time? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you for your attention, and please read over the things that Don sent out. Put together a list of what you like, what you don't like, what you think should be, so we can get moving forward on getting a committee formed. So, and with that, the meeting is